Dear God, today as this session opens, we pray that your presence will be before us and everyone who serves in the decision-making process of our city. We pray for the direction which will lead our city to be strong and unified. May we continue the legacy of our founders. May we be granted this day the wisdom to make decisions which will be for the good of our city. We also pray for your special blessing on all those who are working to transform our city and make it a better place to live and work. Amen. Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call.
Mayor Martin.
Here.
Councilor Armin Mercia.
Here.
Councilor Rita Mercia.
Here.
Councilor Milanazzo. Councilor Mendonça.
Here.
Councilor Broderick.
Here.
Councilor Caulfield.
Here.
Councilor Donahue.
Here.
Councilor Elliott.
Here.
8 present.
Thanks.
8 present. Councilor Caulfield. We have a moment of silence for Mr. Machado.
Yes. I'm requesting a moment of silence with Dock and Chambers for Edward Machado, a very dear and close friend, a outstanding family man, loved his church. He was a coach at the Highland Little League, Highland Senior League, Lowell Major League Baseball. In everyone's life, there comes a time when you meet a person who you have ideals, who you respect immensely, and that was Edward Machado. May he rest in peace. Thank you.
Thank you. If we could rise in a moment of silence and darken chambers in his memory. May he rest in peace. We do have one special presentation this evening. It's in honor of Make a Difference Day. There is nobody here to accept a proclamation, but I thought it would be worthwhile. Nevertheless, we have several local organizations that participate in Make a Difference Day, including Big Brothers Big Sisters, Boys and Girls Clubs, Habitat for Humanity, the Salvation Army, and the Veterans of Foreign Wars. So let me just read the proclamation, and we'd encourage everybody to participate in Make a Difference Day. Whereas serious social problems concern our nation and threaten its future, and connecting with others and working together through volunteer services can bridge the differences that separate people and help solve serious social problems. And whereas we, the American people, have a tradition of philanthropy and volunteerism, and millions of self-sacrificing individuals touched and enhanced the lives of millions on the 9th annual day of doing good by giving where there was a need, rebuilding what had been torn down, and teaching where there was a desire to learn, and inspiring those who had lost hope. Whereas USA Weekend Magazine and its affiliate newspapers and the Points of Light Foundation and its affiliate volunteers centers have joined to promote an annual National Day of Doing Good that celebrates and strengthens the spirit of volunteer service. And volunteer service is an investment in the future we all must share. Now, I therefore, William F. Martin, Jr., Mayor of the City of Lowell, do hereby proclaim October 27, 2007 as Make a Difference Day, and urge my fellow citizens to observe this day by engaging in projects benefiting their community, given the 16th day of October 2007 by me, the Mayor. I would want to encourage people on October 27th to participate with those groups. Again, the local groups participating are Big Brothers Big Sisters, the Boys and Girls Clubs, Habitat for Humanity, the Salvation Army, and the Veterans of Foreign Wars. Thank you. We have, as the first item on the agenda this evening, the approval of the minutes of the October 9th meeting. Motion to approve by Councilor Rita Mercia, second by Councilor Broderick. All those in favor say aye. Any opposed? The minutes are approved. Under unfinished business, we have an order of taking for Sharon Road Extension and Parent Way, an order of taking and acceptance to take by eminent domain and fee a certain parcel of land in the City of Lowell for municipal purposes, to wit, the layout and acceptance of Sharon Road Extension and Parent Way, and other municipal purposes associated therewith. This was read last week and held held in the the city clerk's office for 1 week by rule and is now here for a roll call approval. Any questions on this item? Motion approved by Councilor Rita Mercia, second by Councilor Elliott. Roll call.
Mayor Martin.
Yes.
Councilor Arman Mercia.
Yes.
Councilor Rita Mercia.
Yes.
Councilor Milonazo. Councilor Mendonça.
Yes.
Councilor Broderick.
Yes.
Councilor Caulfield.
Yes.
Councilor Donahue.
Yes.
Councilor Elliott.
Yes.
8 yeas, 1 absent.
8 yeas. The taking is approved. Under the city manager's portion of the agenda, we have several communications in response to council motions and requests. Any questions on those items? Councilor Broderick.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. There was a couple of sheets on our desk regarding the estimated tax rates. I know everybody's been looking for them and hoping we can get them out before the election. First, I want to commend you for getting the city's estimate. My understanding is we just got it tonight, so it's got some graphs, and maybe you could explain a little bit for people at home. But this is a single-family average home between $17 and $61. Is that how it is?
That's correct. We think it's going to be on the lower side, but we certainly want to be upfront with people as to what we've believed to be that range to be. The Department of Revenue ultimately has the say over what our actual tax rate will be. But based upon the numbers that we're looking at, we're seeing that it should come in at about $17 to $20 for the average tax payer, meaning that the rate would be about $10.56 for the upcoming year. We still have some issues that we need to go through as we complete the audit. As you recall, the Department of Revenue is requiring that we have the audit completed before they'll approve the tax rate, which essentially we're still on that watch list that they've set up. But we're very pleased that we've been able to come in with this rate. When we produced the budget back in the spring, I think we were looking at a tax, based upon the information we had at the time, we thought the average tax bill would go up about $75. So seeing it more in the $20 range, which is where we think it will end up, we're very pleased with that result. As well as the timeliness of getting this information out. I don't think it's ever been produced quite this early before.
Thank you, and I want to commend you and your staff on. A quick question to our auditor. You've reviewed all the information and you've come up with your numbers and everything.
Yes,
You think everything's on the...
I'm more than comfortable with the numbers that you're being shown this evening.
Wonderful. So we're just waiting for DOR to hopefully approve it or address some questions by them?
Correct.
Super. And when do you think that will be done?
Again, we'll have to wait for the audit to have that completed, and we expect that will be done sometime in probably by the early to mid-August, November. So probably the Department of Revenue acting on it sometime at the beginning of December.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Elliott?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So, could you explain how, just for myself as well as the people at home, how we got to this point in terms of free cash? Because we didn't develop a budget with free cash. By the same token, we didn't go in with a snow and ice deficit. We used excess revenues to take care of that. So could you just give us an explanation on typically the major factors that we're looking at the end of the year to address that we're not in? And I do appreciate this is now, it's before the election, the people know where we stand. We've been very frugal and are managing, in my opinion, our revenues and our expenses very prudently, which is a good thing. But knowing this, government is more transparent. Everything is open. It's upfront, and there still are some slight adjustments that have to be done. But could you please explain to me and the viewing public where we're at and how we got to this tax rate? And we're talking total dollars, by the way. We're not. We always hear that the rate's gone down or the rate's gone up or there's a shift, but this is a total dollar increase, the range between $17 and $61, depending upon a few factors that have to be still worked out with the Department of Revenue. But I think, you and this council have worked very hard considering the increases last year to keep this down, and we're letting homeowners and property owners know this is where we're at, and I think it's a very good thing. love to see it come in at the $17 mark, like we all would, but I'll wait to hear.
Well, I think
your explanation.
again, that's where that's where we think we'll be, is closer to that. There are a number of issues that need to be worked out. The one that comes immediately to mind is the arena. We have that shortfall that we have to make up, and how that's going to be covered, and the Department of Revenue will weigh in on that. But I think if I could, just a couple of points that I think are significant with the, we tried to give you some historical perspective here of what the average tax bills have done over the last several years. And what we've added to the chart, to the bar graph here, is what's happened with our financial reserves and our levy capacity over that period of time. If you go back to 2003, we had a combination of free cash and excess levy capacity somewhere in the vicinity of $27 million. Over time, you can see as the difficult period hit the city as well as it did every other municipality, we saw, in our case, the tax bills go up as residential values went up, but we also saw a very dramatic drawdown of those reserves. From that $27 million to last year, it was just about $3.5 million that we had between the levy capacity, and of course, we had the negative free cash last year. We've started to climb back up in terms of that levy capacity, and because we think we're going to have a zero free cash, which is hard to believe an improvement upon the negative number that we had last year. The tax rate that we're looking at this year does not include any use of free cash. We're not expecting any free cash. So while the other, for the past several years, as we've seen taxes go up, the free cash has been part of that budget formula as well. This budget that we passed this year does not include any use of free cash. It also, I think, significantly, this fiscal year 2008, we also had to deal with the problem of the school reimbursements, the school building reimbursements, being cut by almost $3.5 million. So again, in prior fiscal years, we were getting overpaid for that school, those school building projects. So essentially, we were using money that didn't really truly belong to us. You know, the state was giving it to us, so we were utilizing it. But in fact, it was an artificial number for us. Likewise, the health insurance trust fund was being depleted over that period of time and not being increased in order to try to keep everything in check. This year, we had no choice but to go up on that by a very dramatic number. We went up by about 15%. So the forces that were at work this year, I think, have to be taken into consideration in evaluating where we are. We didn't have free cash to draw upon. We did not have the school building reimbursement excess money. In fact, we're starting to play the catch-up game now, so we actually had lost revenue there. And then on top of that, we had to increase the amount of money going into the health insurance trust fund, which hadn't been the case in prior years. So we had a lot of negative forces working at us, but we were still able to hold the line on total taxation at about 2.5%. And then with the change in valuations, with commercial values going up more than residential values, we were able to see that shift start to take place, where it went back to the burden was being placed back on businesses as opposed to the residential taxpayer. So essentially, that's how we got to that number.
Thank you, Mr. Manager. What I did notice on the second memo that we got dated October 12th is that our revenues, which is, you know, the really, in my opinion, the critical, side of the balance sheet to watch is our revenues are steady. Our property taxes, 23.4 to last year's budget. Everything seems to be, right in line. We understand the final 2 quarters still have to come in. Again, you mentioned the arena, parking operations. We have stabilized the financial situation in the city, and I think that's an important mark that we have hit. And I appreciate getting the information timely. And there's quite a bit of information here that justifies where we're going and what we're doing. I think the 5-year forecast is going to help us a lot. We also understand, the arena, and we don't know, what the winter brings. However, this year we are set. We understand we have some contracts that are still outstanding, and we're not out of the rough, but we do know that we're stabilized, and this is what people can expect, and that's a positive thing. So, thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Caulfield?
Thank you, Mr. Manager. I want to compliment you and you and your staff. If you're pleased with this tax rate, so am I. And I believe the people in the city will be as well. So Thank you. I know you worked tirelessly on this, and I just want to say thanks.
Thank you. Councilman Donza?
Yes, I too am pleased with having these numbers as soon as we have them. I'm also very pleased with the quarterly report that you're providing to us. We're just getting it this evening, so it's going to take some time to go over it. But it's only a couple of weeks after the quarter ended, and having it so soon is phenomenal. I do have a question about the estimated tax rates. You have the free cash and excess levy capacity. Those two things have been combined. And just for some of the people who might be listening out there who may not understand, what is the excess levy capacity? What does that mean?
Under the state law, we can grow our, there's two aspects of Proposition 2.5, as it's known, the tax limitation law of the Commonwealth, that one, total taxation cannot exceed 2.5% of the total valuation of the community. What that really means is that you can never exceed a combined, in our case where we have a split rate, you kind of have a combined tax rate in excess of $25. More significant is, no one's near that. We're not near that, and there's plenty of room there. But more significant is that each year your tax levy, the amount that you're allowed to tax, can only increase by 2.5%. The city of Lowell has not always gone up that 2.5%, going way back into 1981. We're in fact $5 million, as it grows each year, we're in fact $5 million below that number. So we could, and we were almost faced with having to do something like this last year, we could increase well in excess of 2.5% because we have that excess capacity that we can, under the law, tax. But it's, I know it's the position of the council and certainly my position that we want to hold the taxes at a lower level. So that's why this year we took last year's levy that we did tax and only went up 2.5% on that. But if we ever needed to, we could actually tax an additional $5 million and still be within the limits of the law.
So that's basically the difference is the total amount that we're getting from real estate taxes at $5 million below what we could receive as a limit under Proposition 2.5.
Exactly.
So we have that cap.
Most other communities of the state are at the limit, or close to the limit. You know, it tends to be more cities like Lowell that are able to hold below that, or that do hold below that, and that certainly has been our position here that we're trying to do as well.
All right, thank you. While I have the floor, I'd like to thank you on the response to my request to put the ordinances on the website. I know there's a lot of work going on. It's not really related to putting it on the website. But once that work is completed, you said it would be up by December, January timeframe. Probably get that done once we have the document.
The biggest challenge we face, Councilor, is that getting the ordinances updated and codified, and that's something that's, again, long overdue. It hasn't been done since 1987, I believe. And you know, there needs to be a consolidated code for the city. And when I came on about a year ago, it was something I met with solicitor on and the clerk, and it is a priority to get that done. It will make it very easy for us then, or easier for us to actually manage the city, to have that work completed, and certainly to be able to then put it online where the residents and businesses of the city can just log on, find it, the information that they want and how the city should be operated.
Exactly what I want. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Donahue?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Well, I too want to commend the administration for getting this information to the council and, more importantly, to the city and to the taxpayers. I don't recall, it may have happened maybe once or twice over the past decade, but I don't recall any time, especially in an election year, when this information has been made available. And we know, you know, some skeptics out there think that the council intentionally holds that information back, which isn't true. But, you know, this year, I think it's a credit to the management of the city and to the council for, in what are tough times, for all the reasons you've said. But I also want to point out that, you know, these have been tough economic times. The city in particular has been digging out from under over the past couple of years. And notwithstanding that, the tax increase is modest. I mean, nobody wants an increase, but it's modest. And at the same time, the city's been able to maintain services. There has not been a decrease in services, and maintain employees. There've been some changes in the jobs that city employees did, but we were able to avoid layoffs by offering other jobs to people. And I think that's a tremendous credit. Not just because it's important. I think the obligations, we've hit that balancing act where we want to give a good value to the taxpayer, but also provide the services and be fair to city workers. So I think this is very good news. I don't know what the skeptics will say after this, but I think this is good news for the city.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anything else on this topic? Okay. Other questions or comments on communications from the city manager? Councilor Elliott.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to bring to the attention a number of emails that we received regarding the cleanup of Jackson Street. I, along with a number of my fellow councilors, attended a meeting of JAMBRA, the Jackson Appleton Middlesex Street, and the residents following that meeting were very impressed and pleased, and it's a credit to the city that we responded in such a manner to these are new condominium owners that appreciated the fact the city was up there on a Saturday morning picking up trash and cleaning up that particular area with brush removal, et cetera. And again, considering we're investing in that area, the city did a good job, and I just wanted to make note of that, Mr. Manager. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Councilor Caulfield?
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. I also want to comment on the Jackson Street cleanup. I've heard from many, many people. The DPW just did an excellent job there this past weekend, and they just didn't clean. They shined and buffed. So everyone was very, very impressed with the cleanup, and my thanks go to DPW and your staff. Thank you, Manager.
If I may,
Mr. Manager.
Councilor, I will. Obviously, I've already through T.J. McCarthy and Tom Bellegarde thanked them for their efforts, but I'll certainly pass on the council's appreciation for their efforts as well.
Councilor Caulfield.
I just have two other issues, and I mentioned this to the manager prior to the meeting. I believe I and my colleagues received a letter about the Paula Library. I'll give that letter to you, Mr. Manager. And I have a petition to keep the lights on at Lincoln Parkway and Washington Parkway. It not only beautifies the area, but it's for safety as well. So I'll give these to you.
Mr. Manager.
If I could, just on that latter issue of the lights, we have been monitoring that situation. We do have some residents in that area that are not happy with the lights being back on, and Mr. Sheehan was out in that neighborhood last night checking out the lights and seeing what the effect was, and we're looking at some different options to make sure that there's a balance of needs there if we can meet those. But public safety obviously is the paramount concern. So.
Thank you. Councilor Rita Mercier.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Since my colleague to the right is passing in things that he thinks should meet your attention, and it says that requests, well, I am requesting through this a letter that I received this morning regarding the Pollard Memorial Library. I don't know if that's a part of it. Is that a part of what he's talking about?
Yes, it is.
Because we did, and it's very troubling. Did you get a copy of this?
Yes.
Because we need to address that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
If I may, we did have the couple of incidents several months apart. Recently, there was a window broken. The city's been reimbursed by one of the parents for that on that window, and so we know certainly who was responsible for that. And we did have over time we've had a couple of other incidents at the library. I don't want to downplay this. This is a very serious matter. We do have the police walking through on a regular basis, doing walkthrough inspections. We have a new youth behavioral specialist over there who's working with us. I've had a number of meetings with the library director and other staff to discuss this issue. So we're certainly aware of it, and we're dealing with that, while at the same time recognizing that it's an unfortunate reality that these events or these occurrences do happen in our libraries and our public buildings. So, but we are working on it, Councilor.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to the city manager, I thought we had a buzzer somewhere in there that they could buzz right over to the police department.
We do have the ability, we do contact the police whenever we need emergency response.
Gee, a library to me is pretty sacred, that you go there and it's quiet and you try to read and you show your children the value of knowledge through the library, and things like this happen. It's unacceptable.
And it's unfortunate
frightening.
is that it happens in every library around.
Wow,
And
that's terrible, but thank you, Mr. Manager.
Thank you. Councilor Elliott.
I just want to follow up briefly. I agree that it's a difficult issue because we want people to go to the library, but when it's being vandalized, and I understand there was a fire a short time ago, and you know, is there a plan? Is there a way to? I mean, we can't follow people around, but we just spent millions on that library, and it's a beautiful library, but
Right.
you know, it seems to be sort of a, I don't want to say pattern, but you know, when you hear of these, it's very frustrating.
We do have surveillance equipment there that we check on a regular basis. As I said, we do have the walkthroughs. The fire, it wasn't a full-fledged
No.
fire. I mean, it was a kid.
But it was set,
These
right.
these are kids,
Right.
and these are you want kids the youth to come and use the library. It becomes somewhat of a draw, or a youth center almost, a place for them to go after school. We do have some issues with some of the staff with their working with some of the students or youngsters that come in that we're trying to deal with as well. Again, I see this as a serious problem that we need to look at and stay on top of. I don't think it should reach a panic mode, though, at this point, because in fact it does. All in all, there aren't a large number of incidents, but they do happen from time to time.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Broderick, do you have? Okay, motion to accept the communications from the city manager placed on file by Councilor Broderick, second by Councilor Armand Mercier. All those in favor say aye. Any opposed? The communications are accepted, placed on file. We have, under the public hearings, there is one public hearing, a petition for conduit by National Grid in a pole location in Rogers Street. We'll open the public hearing for those wishing to speak in favor.
Good evening. My name's Dave Aguirre, and I'm representing National Grid. National Grid is asking the City of Lowell for permission to relocate Pole 19 so we can better serve the new development, the new condominiums that are being built on Perry Street.
Thank you. Anybody else wishing to speak in favor of this petition? Anyone else here wishing to speak in favor? Hearing none, that portion of the public hearing is closed. Anybody wishing to speak in opposition? In opposition. Anybody wishing to speak in opposition? Hearing none, that portion of the public hearing is closed. Councilor Rita Mercier?
No, refer to the wire inspector.
Motion to refer to the wire inspector, second by Councilor Broderick. All those in favor say aye. Any opposed? The matter will be referred to the wire inspector. Thank you. Back to the city manager's portion of the agenda, there is one request for out-of-state travel. Dear Mayor Martin, members of the council, attached is a request from Mark Young, Executive Director, Wastewater Treatment Facility, to send 4 wastewater lab personnel to Lab Practices Seminar in Nashua, New Hampshire, November 1st, 2007. If you have any questions regarding this request, please let me know. What's the wish of the council on this? Motion to approve by Councilor Broderick, second by Councilor Donahue. Roll call.
Mayor Martin?
Yes.
Councilor Armand Mercier?
Yes.
Councilor Rita Mercier?
Yes.
Councilor Milonazo? Councilor Mendonça?
Yes.
Councilor Broderick?
Yes.
Councilor Caulfield?
Yes.
Councilor Donahue?
Yes.
Councilor Elliott?
Yes.
8 yeas, 1 absent.
8 yeas, the request is approved. Next item is an order pursuant to Chapter 13 of the Code of Ordinances, City of Lowell, Massachusetts, concerning Section 13-6 thereof, entitled Temporary Experimental Regulations. Temporary traffic regulations are hereby implemented for a period of 60 days. Whereas the city desires to make temporary traffic rules regarding traffic order under actual conditions for a period of 60 days, and whereas Chapter 13 of the Code of Ordinances, City of Lowell, Massachusetts, Section 13-6 thereof, entitled Temporary Experimental Regulations, authorizes the council to make such temporary rules for a period not to exceed 60 days. Now, therefore, be it ordained, adjudged, and decreed by the Council of the City of Lowell as follows, effective immediately for a period of 60 days thereafter, the following temporary traffic regulations shall be implemented. Stop designated hereby amended by adding the following: on Suffolk Street against southbound drivers, on Suffolk Street at Father Morissette Boulevard, and parking for handicapped persons at 505 Central Street, 92 Gorham Street, and parking prohibited on certain streets at all times is amended by adding Stanley Ave, northerly side entirely. Second reading by title. In order pursuant to Chapter 13 of the Code of Ordinances, City of Lowell, Massachusetts, concerning Section 13-6 thereof, entitled Temporary Experimental Regulations, temporary traffic regulations are hereby implemented for a period of 60 days. Any questions? Roll call.
Mayor Martin?
Yes.
Councilor Arman Mercia?
Yes.
Councilor Rita Mercia?
Yes.
Councilor Milonazo? Councilor Mendonça?
Yes.
Councilor Broderick?
Yes.
Councilor
Yes.
Caulfield? Councilor Donahue?
Yes.
Councilor Elliott?
Yes.
8 yeas, 1 absent.
8 yeas, the order is approved. The next item is a vote authorizing the city manager to execute a 3-year amendment to a lease agreement between the Lowell Arena and Civic Stadium Commission, acting on behalf of the City of Lowell and the University of Massachusetts Lowell. Is there a motion to waive the full reading? So moved by Councilor Caulfield, seconded by Councilor Broderick. All those in favor of waiving the first full reading say aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, the first full reading is waived. Second reading by title. A vote authorizing the city manager to execute a 3-year amendment to a lease agreement between the Lowell Arena and Civic Stadium Commission, acting on behalf of the City of Lowell and the University of Massachusetts Lowell. Broderick.
Thank you. I just wanted to briefly, this is the amendment number 1, attachment A. These are the 4 terms we had voted on prior, discussed.
It's correct. If I may, Councilor.
Mr. Manager?
It does indicate that it's a 3-year extension. In effect, it's really just, we've already voted the council's already voted the first year. But the amendment was never executed because it needed the Arena Commission to actually weigh in on this as well. So this covers the current year that we're in which we've already voted those, or the council's already voted those conditions, and it extends it out 2 more years so that it's on the same schedule as the Devils.
Okay.
But it's the same arrangements that were already discussed with council back in the spring.
So basically, same thing, 2 more years.
Exactly.
Sounds familiar. All right.
Thank you. Councilor Donahue?
Well, do we know the Devils have exercised their option, or?
They have notified us that they've exercised their option. They had until December 31st, but they've actually notified us already that they are extending it out the full 2 years after this.
And then that's it?
That's it.
And do we have a lease for an additional 2 years with the university? Or
This will be, it will be the same lease, but this would just be an extension of the current lease with these revisions.
so the current lease is only for this current year?
We have it through this year and, correct. But it was never, the first year of this 3-year extension, which is what we've already agreed to, has never been executed in a formal amendment.
Okay.
Councilor Rita Mercia?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. If you look at the amendment number 1, and we go down to the now therefore for mutual consideration, and you go from that point and count down 1, 2, 3, 4, where it says, regardless of any provisions to the contrary, UML may at its discretion serve alcohol during UML hockey games or other UML events. I really feel personally that it should say with the proper permitting. I really think it should be amended to include that phrase. It's almost like they can serve alcohol during any of the games. It doesn't even say that they should go for a permit. I think they might know that they have to, but I mean, we're not just letting them serve alcohol. They have to go to the proper permitting agency to do that, to the license commission. I think out of respect for another body here in this city hall, it should say, regardless of any provisions to the contrary, UML may at its discretion with the proper permitting serve alcohol during UMass Lowell hockey games. I personally feel and would feel better if it included that phrase. I'm not saying that we should stop this from happening, but I think we should amend it to put that phrase in before that.
Mr. Manager?
Counselor, I certainly, the arena and the UMass Lowell, as a tenant of the arena, have to go through the normal permitting process. I believe the arena has already gone through that. But this was prepared by the solicitor's office. Perhaps Solicitor Fenton has an opinion on that particular matter.
I think that, first of all, under the act that created the arena, it was allowed that a special license would be issued to the arena for serving alcohol and so forth. Nevertheless, the wording that you suggest, I don't have a problem with inserting that.
It'd make me feel more comfortable knowing it was there rather than to know that it's not there. That's all.
Okay. So motion to amend the vote by including the phrase subject to the proper permitting by
Right.
Councilor Rita
Yes,
Mercier.
thank you.
Second by Councilor Armin Mercier. Any discussion on that motion? Councilor Elliott?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I know we're working hard to keep UMass Lowell hockey here, and that's a good thing. But what, and we just discussed tonight that we still have some outstanding, issues with the arena, and it runs a deficit. What does the city, I see that they're getting 100% of all gross commissions. Has that changed since the prior agreement that we had? And I know UMass Lowell is losing, the thousands or hundreds of thousands on this program, and they're trying to generate revenue, and I support that. I just also know that the city runs a deficit with the arena, and trying to balance that is difficult. I want to try to move the arena in the direction of breaking even, if you will. So my question is, how does this, how is it a win-win for us? I mean, we're losing money in the arena. Are we going to make any additional money from this lease?
The additional money that we would make from this lease would be in the advertising on the exterior school
Okay.
message center. There'd be additional revenue that would come to the city from that. There is, unfortunately, what transpired a year or so ago is that the Devils were given all of the advertising within the arena, when in fact there was already a lease in place with the university that they would have certain advertising revenue. So in order to make up that difference, this proposal or this language was developed last spring to make them whole in some way for the lost revenue that they were experiencing, and then sharing the revenue on the exterior school board to bring some revenue back into the city.
Okay.
The $50,000 subsidy, that was the original agreement with the city or the arena commission and the university was that they would pay for an operations manager, or they would provide an operations manager, but the agreement with the SMG did not specify that, and so SMG utilized their own staff to do that, and so for a period of time the university was making a $50,000 subsidy when in fact there was no provision for that taking place. So this clears that up as well. So in effect, the biggest problem that I see that's happened is, if I could make some editorial comments, is that agreements were being negotiated and back and forth without any degree of consistency as to who was responsible for doing what and where revenue was supposed to go.
So how does the city benefit from this, in addition to having,
It's probably pretty much
people in the place,
it's
and
pretty much a
hockey?
wash for the city, possibly even a small revenue loss, but at the same time it provides the guarantee for the university for the next 2 years so that they can make the argument to the University of Massachusetts Board of Trustees that the program is in place and is secure.
Could I ask Mr. Skinner a couple of questions? I know he's here. Does the university lose money on the hockey program?
Yes, probably, which is not unusual, by the way. There's, outside of major college athletics, I'm not sure there's any athletic program in the country that makes money at this level. We probably last year lost, I'm going to guess, between $730,000 over the course of the year.
So this is one reason why you're trying to, do some things different, including...
Yeah, a couple of things, and I'll just speak to the extension. I think the city manager certainly spoke to that. It's had somewhat of an interesting impact in that we're all fired up to get a new arrangement, and we all came together to do that. But our opponents are out on the street, our coaches recruiting against us and telling everybody they got a one-year deal and they're going to drop hockey at the end of next year. So it was really important from a recruiting standpoint that we solidify the relationship with the city and also with the trustees as well. So that was one piece. In the financial piece, I think the city manager spoke to it, tying it to the Devils, and at which point, depending upon what happens a few years down the road, I think there's going to be opportunities for everybody to sort of take care of much of the funding gap. As an arena commissioner, I'm concerned about that. We talked about it at the last meeting. That certainly is an issue I think we all have responsibility for. But this would certainly solidify the university's position in the public eye.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Skinner.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Manager.
Okay, Councilor Broderick?
Real briefly, just to, we have the 4 points here. What's the arrangement for parking? I know sometimes when we do these events, part of the revenue that we don't realize or we don't anticipate or calculate in these is increase in parking revenue. And I don't know if those tickets come with parking or if we anticipate, I think there's 17 games, is this going to be an increase, a boost to the city of $5 a car for the events?
Well, I think, Councilor, that's a good point, that what we're hoping to do is with providing the university with the tools to do more in terms of promotion, that there will be more, higher attendance at their games. And the revenue from that parking, if the parking goes into the garage, that goes directly into our parking fund. If it goes into the other lot, it goes into the arena's bottom line. So one way or another, that would be revenue to the city.
Okay, thank you. I was wondering if it hadn't been calculated. I'm assuming that we're going to hopefully pick up some. I know they've had success selling tickets and club seats and all that, and they've been going at it, and I'm hoping that we get a benefit on the back end from the sales. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Armin Mercia?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Manager, is it safe to assume here that the additional revenues that the UMass Lowell is getting by this agreement really works out with the Devils more than the city? In other words, the Devils are giving up something in order for the UMass Lowell to get additional revenue. Is this going to affect our bottom line deficit substantially?
It's not affecting, it doesn't really involve the Devils at all. There's no impact on the Devils. They still get their revenue, and the revenue that they was negotiated that they would receive from advertising if they're able to sell it and so on.
Weren't they getting more than now, the Devils?
The Devils are not getting any more revenue.
No, but were they getting more before the university got this amendment?
No.
For instance, they seem to be sharing in the revenues of advertising.
No, the only advertising that's shared is the message board on the outside, right at the entranceway, that the university and the city will share. There has been no revenue that's come off of that up until now. It's gone towards the cost of erecting that signage.
So the additional revenue that UMass Lowell is getting through this amendment is not creating a larger deficit for the city substantially. Is that right?
I think the best way for me to put it is it's not helping the city's deficit in any way, and it has a minimal impact on a negative impact.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Caulfield?
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. There was, at a point in time, a slight chance that UMass Lowell hockey would not be playing. Now they are, and under the leadership of Chancellor Meehan and Athletic Director Dana Skinner, they're going to put UMass Lowell Hockey East on the map. We have to encourage them, and this amendment is going to do that. It's going to give them a chance to expand, to grow, and as Councilor Broderick indicated, maybe the parking garage will have 1,000 more cars in it than they ordinarily do. So there's a chance to make some revenue there. But I have the utmost confidence in Chancellor Meehan and Dana Skinner that hockey, UMass Lowell Hockey East, will be once again right up there amongst the best, and will attract large audiences and attendance. And without UMass Lowell hockey, that arena is barren. We can't afford to have that. So I'm certainly going to support the amendment.
Thank you. Councilor Rita Mercier?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Although it has minimal impact on the city, let me state here that I think tonight is showing UMass Lowell that the city wants to work in partnership with you. I think this is the bottom line. I think this is saying that, yes, UMass Lowell, you are a partner with us. It wasn't an endeavor between the state and the city. It was a three-way multi-try adventure endeavor with the three of us. And I think that this is like a handshake that says, we want to work together. We want to bridge that gap. Yeah, it's a minimal impact on the city, but we're giving you what we feel is fair and in the best interest of UMass Lowell. And I support this, and I think this is the way to go.
Thank you. Councilman Donza?
Yes, I too see this as basically a case of fairness as to how we treat the two major programs at our arena. And we should be treating them more as equals, and this is what this moves us towards. I'm also concerned, of course, about the operating deficit and the impact that it would have on that. I'd like to see us reduce that, but I'm going to trust for the moment that it will have minimal impact and that over the course of the year we'll see that that's true. So I'll support it just as in the interest of fairness to the two programs.
Thank you. Mr. Manager?
Mr. Mayor and councilors, if I could just have just a couple comments. Councilor Mercier, I agree with you that this is certainly evidence of the city's partnership with the university on this on the arena. I guess the only point I would make, if I could, is that I think that partnership has been a long-standing partnership, and I don't think that this is anything dramatically new about this agreement as opposed to where we were last spring when we went out and worked hard to try to work a deal with the university and went out in support of the university's hockey program. And I think this is just a continuation of that partnership, and hopefully one that will continue to do well and will continue to will actually grow over time. So I think that's significant. The other is that we are working right now. We have the management contract coming up for renewal. We also have the concessions contract coming up for renewal or for rebidding, and we're looking at those very carefully to see what can be done to grow our revenue that can address that operating deficit, bringing more acts into the arena, looking at some incentives within the management contracts, and frankly getting a better share for the city from both of those as we move forward. But certainly to have the tenants that we have there is significant, at least for the next couple of years, so that we can have that steady stream of revenue during that period of time.
Thank you. Any further discussion? All right, so the first vote is on the amendment offered by Councilor Rita Mercier. All those in favor of that amendment say aye. Any opposed? That amendment is approved. And then roll call on the final lease as amended.
Mayor Martin?
Yes.
Councilor Arman Mercier?
Yes.
Councilor Rita Mercier?
Yes.
Councilor Milonazo? Councilor Mendonça?
Yes.
Councilor Broderick?
Yes.
Councilor Caulfield?
Yes.
Councilor Donahue?
Yes.
Councilor Elliott?
Yes.
8 yeas, 1 absent.
8 yeas, the vote is approved. Subcommittee reports. Councilor Caulfield.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The Neighborhood Traffic Subcommittee convened a meeting last evening at 5 p.m. and it lasted approximately an hour. In attendance was Manager Lynch, Assistant City Manager Andy Sheehan, Councilor James Milonazo, Executive Director of the Wastewater Treatment Plant Mark Young, Mayor Martin, City Engineer Lisa DeMeo, Miles Johnson from CDM, TJ McCarthy, Michael Damaris from Neighborhood Services, and it was an excellent meeting. And there were some business people as well from the Chancellor Street corridor. And I was astounded when Miles Johnson from CDM told me they were going down 18 feet on Chancellor Street. Not only are they putting in new storm drains, but new water mains as well, so we're getting a good bang for our buck there. They're going to repave the street when it's finished, and the only negative part of the entire meeting was it's going to take a month and a half to 2 months. Ballstock contractor is going to reduce the 6-month period almost down to 2 months. So they're working late into the night and so forth. It is a hardship on the businesses, but as Councilor Broderick indicated and Councilor Rita Mercer indicated, this work has to be done, and I agree wholeheartedly. It's mandated by the federal government. We have to separate the stormwater from our sewer lines, and if we don't, we're going to be fined severely by the federal government. So, what transpired last night is Councilor Broderick brought forward a motion, seconded by Councilor Rita Mercier, that Manager Lynch and his administration indicate, secure some ads in the local media, let the people know that those businesses are open, have the police department there not only to direct traffic, but have a friendly user attitude towards the traffic, and hopefully we can get through this. But this is going to be an ongoing problem throughout the entire city, and this is phase one of a $65 million project. I indicated last night that I wish we could spend $65 million on improving our streets and sidewalks and infrastructure. But EPA says no, and EPA, I think, is right. We just cannot continue to put wastewater into our river, and Haverhill, Manchester, Lawrence, and Nashua have to go through the same thing. So that's the gist of the report. We're going to meet in 2 weeks and with the business community. I believe Nancy Judge from the Highlands Betterment Council is going to have a meeting and inform the residents and the businesses that this is going to be an ongoing venture, and hopefully we can finish this project in 2 months like the contract is stated. But it's something that has to be done. We don't have a question. We just have to get this work done because the federal government is demanding it. So I'd like to have Councilor Rita Mercer and Councilor Broderick weigh in on this issue as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Broderick?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. That was essentially the motion, but I'm not too sure if it was about putting ads in the paper or trying to do some type of press release. But in any event, make it more public, and especially in the future to be work a little bit more closely with the businesses so they know they can let their clients, their patrons, in whatever they're doing for business know, because this is, as we said last night, a double whammy. It's one thing to have difficulty getting to your own home, but when you're there, you're home. If it happens at your business, you can lose your business and your home. So it's a real concern, and with the size of and the scope of this project, it's going to continue down Chelmsford Street. It's going to happen on Gorham Street, and we're going to have a lot of disruption and interruption in a time when people are going out on a limb, bringing business into the city, and working with us. I think it's important that we do that, offer the signage, and speak with Chief LaValle in terms of having the police and whoever's on detail be a little bit more proactive and letting people know. That big orange sign right away tells people just turn around, don't come down. Somehow changing up the signage, but that's something that I'm confident that the administration can work with the different departments and work something out. But I'm not too sure if it was going to be an ad or a press release. But however it's done, to let the public know that these people are open and they can do business. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Rita Mercier?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This was an excellent subcommittee meeting, and I thank everybody involved that this motion that I made got the recognition that it's so deservedly needed. This is originally was a 6-month project, which we're not denying needed to be done. It was an expedited schedule that is now going to take 2.5 to 3 months, be done by January 1st. We're sure that we will see that happen. And it's to be customer-friendly to the businesses that are there. I think everybody's needs was addressed. I want to thank everybody involved because it did expedite the schedule, as well as put 2 crews on instead of 1. They're working 7 to 5. They're really doing diligent work there, and so it was a way to say to the residents and to the people that own businesses there, you sank your life savings into a project. Even though we have a needed agenda, we still have to coexist together in a friendly, customer-friendly relationship, and I think that's going to be met. So thanks for everybody coming on board and addressing that situation.
Thank you. Anything further on the subcommittee report? Councilor Mendonça.
Yeah, if I could just ask a question to the chair of the subcommittee, is that this is the same construction company that did the work in Pawtucketville on Emery Street and Riverside, and at that time they had a trailer with like a construction manager on site that the residents or the businesses could go to if they're having an issue that just came up. Do they have such a contact point for this project?
I believe that they have a drop-off point on one of the streets where they have their equipment and pipes and so forth, but the city and I received nothing but rave reviews on this contract. Baltzar and Pawtuckaville, absolutely phenomenal. And they dotted the I, crossed the T, and the residents were very happy with this contractor, and the city is too. So, but I will check that out for you, Council.
I was asking about, is there someone that on site or a trailer on site that people can go to if there's a particular issue?
I really don't know.
No.
I don't know.
Actually, there is I'm not sure about a trailer or work a site location that they have, but I know that even the businesses that were here last night were commenting how pleased they were that there is a contact person there that they deal with and that they have met with regularly on various issues that have come up. So I think that they're satisfied with the contact that they're receiving. So in that respect, there aren't any problems. But it's some of the traffic-related issues and some of the signage that we're trying to work through as well. But there is a contact person there, Councilor.
Yeah, there is.
All right, very good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Councilor
Rita Mercia.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It says if you have any questions, concerns, or special needs regarding this work, please contact the Baltazar Superintendent on site, Tony Fraga, and he will be on site. So his name is Tony. Just look for him. He'll give you any answer to your question.
But hopefully that will be in the press release and the media report and so forth. I just want to state that the contractor, the work that's being done is right in the middle of Chester Street. And they're going down 18 feet. So you just imagine the magnitude of that job. And if people want to go by on the left or the right, it's absolutely impossible. Safety is paramount here. And in order to get that job done, they have to go down 18 feet to lower the sewer line, so it's going to flow properly. Installing a new water main as well. So, you know, it's a huge project, huge. And you know, when we discussed this CSO, we knew this was going to come. Excavating some of the city streets, and it's before us right now. So the best way we can handle that is to work with the business community and the residents to make it as easy as possible on them, and let them know that this work has to be done. It's not a point of we want to do it, we have to do it.
Okay, any further discussion on the subcommittee report? Motion to accept by Councilor Broderick, seconded by Councilor Mendonça. All those in favor say aye. Any opposed? The report is accepted. Additional subcommittee reports? Okay, hearing none, we'll move to the petitions. The first petition is from Keyspan Energy, a request for a 1,000-foot gas main in Pine Street. This matter gets referred to a public hearing on October 30th. So moved by Councilor Broderick, seconded by Councilor Mendonça. All those in favor of referring this matter to a public hearing on October 30th say aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, the matter is referred to a public hearing on October 30th. The next petition is from United Wood Floor Supplies, 26 Lincoln Street, request a sign at Lincoln and Chelmsford Street. I don't believe there's anybody here on this item. Motion to refer this item to the city manager for report and recommendation by Councilor Mendonça, second by Councilor Broderick. All those in favor say aye. Any opposed? The matter is referred to the city manager for report and recommendation. Next petition is from William Ronsley, a petition requesting to address the council on shelter and traffic on Lawrence Street. Mr. Ronsley, if we could just have your address for the record, please.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, councilors, Mr. Manager. My name is Bill Ronsley. I live on Rockingham Street in the Wigginville section of Lowell. Yes, my friends, there still is a Wigginville.
Absolutely.
But that's a subject for another night. I am known to my friends and acquaintances as the old curmudgeon. To define it for you, a curmudgeon is one who hates pretense and hypocrisy and has the temerity to tell it like it is. To that end is why I'm here this evening. My first reason for being here, last week, during the meeting of this august body, a businesswoman decried that the people at the transitional shelter are being a detriment to her business. This indeed was and is her right. But in a rush to be heard on the matter, a counselor made the comment that these people are a cancer. And yet another pontificated and said, no one is above the law. Now there is the height of pretense. I wish those people would come down out of their fancy homes and out of their offices, maybe even get to know one of those people. Volunteer just 1 hour. Just 1 hour. Serve those people lunch just once. Maybe on your Thanksgiving, your Christmas, your Easter, or any day, just once. Then you can speak with authority on it. Somebody comes here and tells you what they're doing in the courtyard. Don't take their word. Go and look yourself. I'm there quite often, and let me tell you, it isn't as was presented. The second reason for my being here, I recently sent a letter to the city manager about safety concerns, especially parking of cars on the sidewalk along Lawrence Street area. Lawrence Street was the immediate subject, as I had almost struck a pedestrian who was forced to walk in the street. I've also witnessed a woman with her children and her baby carriage in the same situation. To his credit, the manager replied to my letter. His answer, at least to my mind, was a blow-off, stating, I have not enough police to take care of that situation. Since when are our police in this city blind? When do they turn a blind eye to miscreants and breaking the law? Not on this force. All this was punctuated by pontification of another counselor, since no one's above the law. Same counselor a few weeks earlier whined at this meeting that his constituents were being ticketed in front of their house for parking on the sidewalk, even though they were the miscreants. My friends, this is the absolute height of pretense and hypocrisy. But I'm willing to chalk it up. It's an election year. Maybe it's trolling for votes. Thank you, good evening, and I'll now take my leave.
Okay.
You have to go through the mayor.
Well, you know,
He's not registered.
well, you know, there's a process here. You're supposed to register with the clerk to speak on a matter. Okay. Anything further on the petition? All right, motion to refer the petition to the manager by Councilor Broderick, second by Councilor Elliott. All those in favor say aye. Any opposed? The matter is referred to the manager.
Could I just say a comment about what this Mr. Ronsley had said? Perhaps sometime someone in the city, I don't know who, probably inspectional services or someone, could take a jaunt down there unannounced and see what's going on firsthand. You know,
Well-
I know there's two sides to a story. I know I hear one side. Now we heard another side. I don't know really what's going on. Maybe I could even take a ride down there one day and go unannounced. Maybe someone in the city could as well. You know,
Let me know what you find out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, let me just say too, in my experience, most members of this council, if not all, you know, have done volunteer work, perhaps not at this shelter, but at other shelters and at other homeless facilities. I know our former colleague, Councilor Tenzar, used to organize a group every Thanksgiving. I didn't participate in that, but I've certainly participated in other volunteer efforts, and I know most of you have as well. Councilor Armin Mercier.
I just don't want us to forget the clear message that was said last week. And that was that shelters throughout Massachusetts, and in particular places, work well if managed well. And to think for a minute that we're just going to close a shelter and send them to Tewksbury, which is a great idea, isn't going to work, is not the answer. I think the answer, and I think Karen Bell said it specifically, meeting with them and making sure they manage it properly. We have other shelters and group homes in the city that are managed properly and are not a detriment to the neighborhood. We have a couple, however, that are mismanaged, and this is a result of it. So I would hope that the manager, working with the transition people, would recognize and make them recognize that it'll be to their benefit and the benefit of their clients if it's managed properly. Otherwise, we're going to continue having this problem, and ultimately, the poor that are being serviced there are going to be hurt by it. I really believe that it focuses in on the management of these group homes that are not managed properly or this shelter.
Thank you. Councilor Donahue.
Thank you. Mr. Manager, you weren't here last week, so, you know, but I'm sure you've been caught up to speed on this issue, which is not a new issue. And, you know, the beauty of this country is everybody has a right to, you know, First Amendment right to say what they believe is true. But it does not in any way take away from the fact that it's not just one business owner down there, from which I've heard, and many counselors have heard as well. You know, you don't have to be there and wait and witness, you know, the crime happening in the open air. It's happening. Go and speak to all the businesses up and down Middlesex Street, as I have spoken to many of the business owners, and they will tell you stories that will curl your hair in terms of what happens in broad daylight on Middlesex Street. So even yours, Councilor Armin Mercier. Absolutely. But, you know, that's all. Well, the city has to respond to what is a problem. And I believe that's exactly what's going to happen. And the message, as Councilor Mercier said, is to work together. The fact that the shelter and the center is there and is attracting an element can't be denied. Now, does it mean the people in the shelter are at fault? Is it the management? Of course, a lot of it comes to management, and that it's a difficult thing to manage. But we owe a duty to everybody in this city, and that includes the new residents, it includes the business owners that have been here a long time, it includes the taxpayers, it includes, you know, the taxpayers who are paying a lot of money for future development. It's not any one thing that's getting the attention here. And we're not making up these stories just for ha-has because we have nothing else to talk about on Tuesday night. So I certainly appreciate the passion that people have for the center, for the transitional living center. The mission, is good work, but that doesn't mean the management is always on target. And when we get these kinds of complaints, we're duty-bound to respond to it. And I'll repeat, if you let that situation fester, if you let that type of... let me just give you one story I heard from 2 business owners. Midday, an horrendous, not just fight, screaming, yelling, profanities with people with kids in the street, and outrageous behavior running down Middlesex Street, and they went right into the shelter. Now, whether they belonged there or not, I don't know, but they certainly felt comfortable enough to go in there. People came out of their businesses to see what the commotion was. This is not something that only happens once in a blue moon. It happens. It's happening more and more, and that's why we have to address it. Just like we've had to address problems when the downtown residents had problems with the bars and so forth. Everybody has to coexist together, and it is completely unfair for whether it's a shelter or whether it's a school or regardless of what it is, to blight a neighborhood and make other people, business owners and residents, sit there and say, what am I doing? I can't even live in peace. I can't even go shop. I can't even do these things. That's what we have to deal with. I appreciate the passion that people bring to their job, but they have to appreciate what our jobs are. And it's a little bit different because we have more than just one interest to serve. We have to balance all the interests. And so, I think the suggestion that you meet with the management is a good one. Management was here last week. Mr. Tucker was here. I spoke with him after the meeting. He's looking forward to working together with the city. And I think it's important to engage their board of directors, many of whom, by the way, as I've investigated, live outside the city of Lowell. And so it doesn't mean that they are disinterested or don't care, but even the council meeting, it would be difficult for them to access and hear what councilors are saying because they don't, have access. And I believe the shelter was going to put it on the website so that they could know what was being said. Look, it's all part of being a good partner, being a good neighbor, whether it be corporate, whether it be nonprofit. It's all the same. And the city, I think, has done a good job trying to reach across and make things work. And I think we can do that here too. But we won't do it if we decide to polarize and call names. And so, that's not the spirit of cooperation or the spirit of getting things done. And so, at least from what I've heard and what I heard last Tuesday night, that wasn't what the council was saying. But we have to be realistic. There is a problem.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Broderick?
Thank you. I agree. I think that there's a difference, and I think maybe some of the statements that were made last week were misconstrued or misunderstood. It's not, I don't think it was anybody on the council's intent to talk about the people that need the help and get the help there. And there's a need for this help. However, it needs to be managed properly and coexist with what surrounds it. I had a couple of questions or suggestions, and the first is, we're building a new, very expensive garage there. Are we going to have cameras on that garage? Is there an opportunity? Or I would assume we're going to have some type of cameras and security system that maybe could be used to gather some information to help in our meetings with the center. And also, is there an opportunity it may not be tomorrow or even in this budget, but I would suggest that it would be worth looking at the opportunity of moving a substation or creating a police substation that's going to be manned over in that area, because it's nice to have the sign up, but if people know it's empty inside, it's not going to have the same effect. And I know that the chief is is making the best out of the staffing, but maybe with some of the federal, state, and the sheriff's help, there's a possibility there, whether it's space in the garage where we can, they can man those cameras. I think there's got to be more of a presence there, and it's got to be 24/7, and people have to know that we're watching. I mean, it's come to that. Because we're looking at a $500 million investment. I don't expect an answer tomorrow, but I think that it's definitely worth looking at if we can somehow get a substation there without negatively impacting other areas, but maybe working in cooperation with the other enforcement authorities that we can make this work and protect our investment and the taxpayers' investment, and at the same time provide the services that these people need. I think everybody wins. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Caulfield?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just want to answer Mr. Ronsley's petition. There was no doubt he was referring to me with cars parked on the sidewalk. There's a narrow street off of Grove Street that runs to Branch Street. And there were cars parked on the sidewalk. Not the entire car, but a tire. And the police issued a ticket to every car on that street. So the residents put their cars on the street. And when they did that, a fire truck, an ambulance, another car, or BFI could not get down that street. And I brought that forward, that a little discretion should be used because it was a safety issue. They're not my neighbors, they were constituents, they called me, I responded, and I think the police have taken notice of the fact you just can't give them a ticket. There's no place for them to put their car. And I was just concerned about it being a safety issue. As far as no one's above the law, you can't walk from Middlesex Street down to Middlesex, from Appleton Street to Middlesex Street and consume alcohol. That is against the law. And I've been in that neighborhood for years. And I know what goes on down there. And Mr. Ronsley might volunteer, and his wife does too. They prepare the food and prepare food for the clients there. But maybe the people who don't go in there are outside causing a disturbance, like Councilor Donahue indicated. You know, damn if you do, damn if you don't. You know, it's a double-edged sword. We're just trying to do our job, trying to do the job for everyone in the city, not just a small section of the city, but for everyone. And that's all I have to say.
Thank you. Councilor Rita Mercia.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. In response to Councilor Broderick's questioning, when we did meet on October 10th with Jambra, Chuck Carney was there, the Commissioner of Parking, and he did state that this garage is the 5th garage to open, that will be opened. And he said that it has the latest and best technology that you could possibly have in a garage. He said that there will be security there 24/7. There will be 35 cameras running all the time. I thought that was very important. In strategic places, but most recognizably in the whole area there of that street, so that if there's anything going wrong, most likely we will capture it on film. So that's a good thing too, not just for ourselves, but for the residents, for the businesses as well. So that was a good thing. I also want to say that Adam Bakey from DPD was there. It was a very well-organized meeting. And the purpose of the meeting as well was that they're so concerned about the Hamilton Canal area, the jam plan, and they want to feel as a participant, to participate as partners here in this endeavor, with goals in mind, people, resources, communication between the city and the businesses. They want to be so involved that this will be a model that they build together with us. And I think that is a very important thing, that I don't live in that area, but they have a vested interest, whether it be residential or business, and they're putting their life savings in that. And I think what we're doing is we are offering that partnership with Adam Bakey there and Chuck Carney there. So that was a very important meeting, and I think that was the gist of the whole, everybody coming together. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Elliott.
I agree. It was it was an important meeting, and it was well attended by business and residences, people living in that area as well. The jam section has sat blighted for 30 to 40 years. I filed the motion last week to call attention to an issue that is a problem in that particular section of the city. I happened to run into a couple of board members within the last week, and they weren't offended by the motion. In fact, they appreciated the motion that we are going to sit down and to work with them to manage it properly. We all know that it's not going anywhere. There have been major investments, and there are examples throughout the state where shelters do coexist and are well managed. And that's the essence of what the motion was about, to have the manager meet with the board to call attention the problems that do exist. And I'm sure there's a lot of volunteers that, spend an awful lot of time and probably would like to see conditions improve, and they have limited means to do so. I heard it from the board members. They would, they invite and they're looking forward to meeting with the city to call attention to, and they need some help, and they're happy to have the city's assistance, and it shows that if we're going to make an investment in this neighborhood, and we are, and it's a major step in revitalizing a piece of the downtown that needs serious attention, that we all can be proud of, because I don't think anyone of us in the city would take anyone through that section of the city. So, I appreciate the motion. Everybody is entitled to their opinion, but this motion wasn't a personal attack on the shelter. It's the way that it's being run, and we need to do something and step up, and I'm sure we're going to do it, and we'll move in the right direction. I know the people at the Jambra meeting were pleased that we were taking on these issues, and we'll do so.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Councilman Donson?
Obviously, there's some issues there, however you want to deal with it. I do support the idea that's previously stated of maybe establishing a police presence there. It might behoove us maybe to use some of the retail space in the garage while it's being marketed until somebody actually wants to occupy it, to maybe establish a police presence there. And maybe then they can have eyes on the site and be able to deal with anything that comes up more quickly. The other message, of course, from the petitioner was the parking on the sidewalks, which is always an issue. Sometimes we do need some discretion, but I think the discretion should be if there was space left for somebody to walk by, for someone in a wheelchair to get by on the sidewalk, or for a parent with a baby stroller to be able to get by without having to go in the street. So I think we do need to at least look at that and make sure. Now, Lawrence Street is a fairly long street, so I didn't hear what section of Lawrence Street he wanted, but I'm sure you could find that out and maybe have our officers take a look at that. We should enforce our laws, or we should repeal them. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Manager?
If I could just weigh in here on a couple of the, let me start with the parking, and I was somewhat surprised to hear that my letter was seen as a blow-off, and it was nothing like that. I did respond to Mr. Ronsley and advised him that this was an issue across the city and one that we're constantly trying to address. And he had a number of other suggestions about making Lawrence Street one way that just didn't seem to work well for the city. But that we would certainly put police out there and try to handle the problem as it arose. But we are limited in what we can do across the city, and we'll certainly put that on our list of areas to police. As far as the shelter goes, though. I think a number of the councilors have spoken quite eloquently on the fact that the city has always supported the mission of the Transitional Living Center and has been a partner with the Transitional Living Center on a number of different initiatives, and continues to have dialogue on how we can work together to deal with the issue of homelessness across the city, and how we can work more effectively to address that problem. At the same time, I've met with the Jambra organization myself on occasion, spoken with a number of the business people out there as recently as last week. I recognize I wasn't here when the discussion was held last Tuesday, but we have regular meetings that with the Transitional Living Center to address a number of issues. This is now, at the request of the council, a specific meeting that we're having, and I've already set that up with myself and the police superintendent, with the chairman of their board. I imagine we'll be meeting with other board members as well as their executive director. I think this is an issue that needs to be addressed. They recognize it. I think we all know that there are facilities like this across, certainly across the Commonwealth, that we are very familiar with, and certainly in other cities across the country, that there can be a very good partnership of, in coexistence between a very vibrant, economically strong area and having a facility like this. And so that's what we're trying to achieve, and I think the council was certainly right on target with putting this before me and asking me to make this a priority. Again, we were already working on a number of these issues in coordination with the Jambra organization, the businesses out there, and the Transitional Living Center. But I just wanted to update the council that we will be meeting next week, I believe it is, and I'll be anxious to report back what we come up with for solutions.
Thank you, Mr. Manager. I don't think we already voted to refer this item to the city manager, so no need for further action. That brings us to the motions. The first motion is by Councilor Caulfield. The city council requests the city manager to take necessary steps to rededicate Hadley Field. Second by Councilor Rita Mercier. Councilor Caulfield.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. Hadley Field is approximately 5 acres. It's one of the premium fields, not only in the city, but in the greater Lowell area. And we did dedicate that field in the mid-'80s. And there's 5 individuals on a small plaque, Mr. Manager, on the backstop. And I have attended all the dedications of other fields with a beautiful rock engraved on that stone and some shrubbery and so forth. So I'm just looking forward to seeing this dedication as well. It's, I believe Carlton Fisk played there, Tom Glavine. Carlton Fisk, when he went to Keene State, played UMass Lowell. A lot of great athletes, including Kevin Broderick.
Thank you.
Hey. Mayor Martin played on the Highland Braves, too, over there.
That's right.
All right, all those in favor of the motion say aye. Okay, any opposed? The motion's approved. Next motion, also by Councilor Caulfield. The City Council requests the city manager report on various complaints against BFI. Second by Councilor Armin Mercier. Councilor Caulfield.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I was walking, actually, I received a call from a resident on Birch Street, and it was a summer day, and I went up there, and what's happening, Mr. Manager, is BFI, when they get to Birch Street, the truck is usually full, and it's leaking, and it's leaving, an odor and so forth, and probably if they have the trucks steam cleaned or steam washed to remove that odor, that's one complaint. The other complaint is on Wentworth Avenue, right off of Roger Street. I believe they pick up in Belvedere on Tuesday. So there's 3 or 4 BFI trucks that park right on the Wentworth Avenue, so they can go to lunch, and it's creating, not a very nice aroma. Let's put it that way. So I wish that could be addressed. And, thank you.
Okay. All those in favor of the motion say aye. Any opposed? The motion's approved. Motion to adjourn by Councilor Armin Mercier, second by Councilor Broderick. All those in favor say aye. Any opposed? The meeting stands adjourned.